And we are live. This is Studio Synergy 15, the weekly hangout with artists and whatnot. Um, some of us drawing most of the time. Today we have Paul.
Hi, how's it going?
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Plug your website.
Yeah, my name's Paul. I write and illustrate a comic called Pandia, which is a sci-fi action adventure. And right now I have a ton of commissions that I've collected from various conventions that I've attended. Right now I'm working on one for Michael Starsman. It's a little Halloween thing, some cute little monsters. It's all I sort of had time to do. I was going to do something really gory. I was basically going to have these little kid monsters dressed in like human skin draped over themselves like ghosts, and it was really going to be cool. But I didn't have the time, so getting cute monsters.
Cool. Well, welcome, Paul. And we have Tiffany.
Hi,
Hey.
I'm Ti hey, I'm Tiffany McLeod. I am working on an illustrated poetry book and a unnamed comic at the moment. I'm not as busy as everyone else here, but still working.
That's good, Um, I am Peter Palmiotti. As most of you know, you can find me everywhere online. Just Google my name. Or, and yeah, just maybe few more people joining us later. I know we've got some new people that want to come in, but don't know where everybody is at the moment. But,
Yeah.
so we'll just hang out and chat amongst
Yeah.
ourselves until then.
Cool.
So let's watch what Paul's doing.
Yeah. Well, there's my cute monsters. Can you sort of see that?
Aw,
Yeah.
they are so cute.
Yeah. I'd come up with these pretty cool sketches. Actually, I'll see if I can bring up. Hang on a second. I'm just going to reaction throw that all the way to the top. One second. Let's turn this on here. You able to see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the original little sketchbook sketch that I did while oh boy, what do I give away? Well, I was just supervising some students yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay. Supervising some students. That is an
Yeah.
interesting way to phrase that.
No, I was working. Really, it was. They were on their comic assignments. I teach a class called Story at a local private college, and the component that they're on right now is they have to create a form-page comic based on a particular short piece of fiction or phrase or poem or something like that. And so they were so heavily into it, I really had nothing much else to do that I just decided to get cracking on doodling these monsters.
That is called multitasking, sir.
Yes, multitasking, exactly. So right now I'm shading this little girl monster who's got some braces. You can see here.
Aww. A monster with braces. That is so cute and funny at the same time.
Yeah. I just wanted to go for the whole overly cute thing. I always love that mix of the strange with the mundane. It's one thing to paint up some aliens or some monsters, but you sort of give them something that's so familiar. Like a school backpack, or I don't know, that they're a street worker with, or they're in a garbage truck, or something you see every day, and it suddenly becomes kind of cute.
So streetwalkers, you see those every day? Oh, no.
Street walking.
So we have Tristan is in the hangout now.
Yay.
I don't know if
Hello.
this is- Hey,
You can hear me?
welcome.
Yes.
Good.
Yes,
It's my first time doing this kind of thing, so.
no problem. So welcome.
Yeah. So what have you guys been up to?
Oh, we just basically started. You wanna introduce yourself? Plug your website or YouTube page or whatever.
Sure. My name is Tristan Grant, and you can check out my work at tristangrant.com. TRISTENGRANT. Yeah. And then, of course, I'm on YouTube as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Paul was just talking about some commission he's working on and drawing some cute creatures.
Okay.
Yeah, hi there. There she is. Yeah, I've gotten some pretty good ones lately. I've been doing a few shows around the place. Just on the weekend, I was interstate. I was in Melbourne, Australia, as opposed to Sydney, where I live, at a little show called Armageddon. It was kind of quiet, but I got a couple of nice commissions. There was a nice little mother and daughter commission that I got. She was dressed as Captain America, and her daughter was dressed as, I think, Alice from the BioShock games.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Okay.
So there's a really interesting... oh, I think I got this. Hang on. Can you see that?
Yes.
But that's them. That's one that I might have to work on at some point today. But right now I'm working up this little Halloween piece, which needs to be done by, I think, this week.
So now these are sort of digital drawing commission.
Yeah. What I do is at the conventions, they basically order their commission, and I quickly sketch it up while they go around the convention, and then they can come back and they pick up the original sketch. By that stage, I should have taken a picture of it, like this. This was just taken on my phone camera, and then I used that as the reference for the final piece. So to give you an idea of one that I just finished today, this was a Halo commission. And I'm just going to pop here. Here's the original sketch. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
And then I just went in and did the inks and the colors and all that sort of fun stuff. So if I was just to take away all of this, you can sort of see what have we got here. Yeah, like the inks there. Hang on, let's put a nice backdrop there. Here you go. There are the inks. Usually he'll send me a reference of the type of color that he wants, and so that's the color reference. And then I'll just fill in the backgrounds, and then the color and shading on the character. Label it up, send him a proof, and when he okays it, I print this out and I mail it to him in the post.
Ah,
Okay.
so they're getting two things.
Yeah. So it's kind of popular.
That's a pretty cool idea. I don't think I know anybody who does it that way.
Yeah, it was sort of a bit of a point of difference because it's very simple to do a commission on site, of course, but by the end of the day, your hand really saw. And you're competing with a lot of other artists who are very, very talented at the same time. And so it's always good. I tried this out at an anime convention first, and it was so popular that I just kept trying it out. And yeah, people keep checking it out online. And unfortunately, I think I've got to drop the prices online, which kind of include the extra postage. It's sort of hard to justify a very high price tag these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's always tough.
Yeah. I mean, at these conventions, there's always sort of like parents with their kids, and they're not. I mean, as much as we'd love to think that, oh yeah, we should be getting paid for our time and effort and all that sort of stuff, it's at conventions it tends to be a little bit of a gimmick. People aren't exactly there for the art. They're barely there for me. But I do get a little bit of knock-on work from it. Like if someone's really happy with a commission, just the other day I got a logo design out of it, which was really good. So it sort of turns out to be a bit of a promotional tool more than anything else. Of course, if it's really popular, yeah, bumping up the price is is definitely on the cards.
That's cool. I imagine, you know, you do a lot of logos and stuff like that, right? Design work.
Yeah. I get a bit of design work. While I'm teaching, the freelancing doesn't come in quite as much as I'd like, but on occasion I will get the odd client call up, and I sort of have to do that in the extra time that I'm not teaching, which would take me away from things like, you know, talking to you guys. But yeah, it's generally design work. You know, there will be some logo design, and but it's generally motion design that I do. You know, TV commercials and that sort of thing.
Oh, we lost Tiffany.
Oh no, I was just about to ask. What does someone else out there do?
Hopefully she'll be back. But it's funny. I actually got a logo to do myself that came out of nowhere, kind of like at the right time, because that stuff pays much better than you know, any sort of comic work or commission work I might get.
Yep.
So I'll be working on that tomorrow. I got some inking commissions I got to finish up, and some commissions I'll be drawing and inking myself, which I got to get to after that. Just a long list of those.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, you know, I gotta clean up my commission list so I can actually take more on it at this point.
Yeah, it's sort of like a big to-do list, isn't it? You know, you're sort of like, okay, that's another one down, and
Yeah. What I'm really looking forward to is, you know, I'm doing the Inktober. Each day I'm doing a panel of a comic.
oh, nice.
And I'm going to, you know, I only posted 3 so far. You know, I'm too busy right now, but I'll probably get to those maybe over the weekend, or definitely next week. I'll start posting them again. But you know, it's like I'm filming myself, penciling and inking each one, and it all comes together and tells a story. But on top of that, I'm going to, you know, write text and dialogue and put it together as a comic next month. So It'll actually be the first thing I publish.
Right.
So, looking forward to that.
So how's all that stuff going, Peter? I mean, Bright Eyes and what was the other title that on?
Well, right now, I finished 100 days of making comics, all that jazz, on my YouTube channel, and I took a bit of a break. I'm sort of now shifting my focus, so I'm catching up on client work and focusing on Inktober pieces. This way, next month I'm going to put out 2 books. I'm putting out it's called Bobby B-Boy, which is the Inktober comic, and another book I have 90% done, which is called Arena, which I'm essentially only the inker on that, but I'm also going to be publishing it. So I got to get that done and out as well. And then once those are out, then I'll get back to Bright Eyes and Neon Eden.
Cool.
As well as Blood Rights. So one day I'll get into a real schedule where I'm consistent. I look forward to that.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Yeah. So Jeremy's here.
Yeah. I have snuck in.
Yeah, I guess he's getting set up. Yes.
Yeah. Hey.
Stuck in traffic. Famous
boy.
LA traffic.
Well, welcome.
Greetings,
Welcome.
programs. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Oh. Feeling energetic and need to dig through my bag and figure out what exactly I'm going to work on. I'm a little bit in between projects because I just wrapped up the latest issue of my comic, and I haven't quite got to the point where I'm ready to start thumbnails for the next issue yet. But at the same time, I've got a few different art pieces I've been meaning to color digitally, and a few that I need to draw. And I'm kind of all right, not quite sure what project I'm going to work on, and little drawing studies I want to work on just to improve my skills. I'm all over the map.
Yeah.
And swinging wildly. So business as usual, really.
None of that is at all familiar to any of us.
Yes.
Don't know what you're talking about.
What is swinging wildly?
Well, don't you think it's important, because you just finished a book, to take a break, give yourself a pat on the back?
Well, here's the thing. I think that honestly, it is a good thing to take a little time and decompress. But later on in November, I'm going to be taking a 2-week vacation. So I almost feel like I want to keep the momentum going and get a little more grinding out for this month at the beginning of November, and then I'll have my real downtime. And I plan to use that downtime to do thumbnails for not just the next issue, but basically the whole rest of the series, so I can hopefully finish the rest of the series at a faster pace than I've been going up till now. We'll see how that works.
Yeah. That makes sense on paper.
It always does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, I did tell myself that I was going to maybe just take a week and just sit around and do some pleasure reading, maybe watch a little TV, try to read a couple of graphic novels. But my girlfriend was sick, and she had she's been fighting off walking pneumonia. And when you're in a house with somebody who's sick, you're eventually going to get sick too. But I'm one of those people who, when I feel myself starting to get sick, I just start sleeping all the time. Like I always joke, I go into the Odin sleep. And if I do that enough, where I'm just like I'll go bump up to like 8 or 9 hours a day instead of like the normal 6 or 7. If I can do that for like a few days, that'll kind of tide me over. So the time that should have been partying up and celebrating, finishing a comic, I've been spending that time sleeping. So the art's calling me. I gotta get back to it. I'm jonesing.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, on the other hand, it's as soon as you finish that first book or that first issue, you're so pumped, and that you want to keep that momentum going.
Oh yeah, I mean that the thing is, I have found that as I complete each issue of the series I'm working on, I do get progressively faster. The problem is that life and day job stuff gets in the way of me carrying on the momentum. But ideally, if I didn't have anything in the way and I could just keep jamming, I would feel like, I could just plow through, like not necessarily up to like a monthly speed, but probably like a bi-monthly pace for a comic, which I would love to be able to, do that kind of speed on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have not met Tiffany before. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Tiffany. I have 2 of your books already. So.
Okay. Well, wait. Did we meet at a convention?
Yes.
Okay. All right. See, that's that's running into cartoonists in other contexts.
Yeah.
What show did we meet at?
I think it was Kamikaze.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I did Kamikaze last year. I'm unfortunately not going this year, but this year's been sort of like trying to do a show a month. And I realized while that's great for getting my work out to people and meeting new people and connecting with folks, is murder on getting stuff done.
I could imagine, like, just the preparation for it is it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Wipes out a week leading up to and a week afterwards.
Yeah, but that convention seems to be getting, like, doubling each year. It's insane.
You mean the size of Kamikaze, or you just mean the convention?
Yeah,
scene?
Kamikaze.
Yeah. Well, that year I
don't
did
know.
it. I was gonna say that was my first year doing it last year, and I know a lot of people that I've seen people that did really, really well at that show, people that did okay, and people that did horribly. So it's not really a show that you can say, oh, it's a good show, it's a bad show. It's one of those it depends shows.
Oh, really? Because I thought the way they had it laid out on the showroom floor was pretty good for, like, artists.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
but I don't know. Compared to other conventions that I've seen, where everybody's in the back.
Well, I think that is one thing I've seen that's interesting over this past year, is seeing how different shows, all over the country have been doing stuff where they experiment, set stuff up in different ways. And even the Wizard World shows, even though they're all in the same banner, they keep tweaking the flow and the floor layout, not just for each convention, but just from show to show. And I think exhibitors in general, not exhibitors, but the convention organizers in general, they pay attention to the feedback they're getting from fans, from the exhibitors in the artist alley. And I think that I've seen shows just over the course of 1 year getting progressively better. And I think part of that is the competition. Now that there are, you can find like 2 shows a month that are not necessarily big shows, but still decent sized, And if you want to go to small shows, you can have a show every weekend. So I think that they're like, all right, they gotta, come together with how they gotta come with it in terms of their layout and how they come with the shows. And I think it shows. I appreciate a well-organized convention.
Yeah.
I was recently at one where we definitely felt that the organisation could have been better. I mean, even the volunteers they weren't trained on some very, very basic things. We had this little girl just get lost right in front of our table, and there was about 6 volunteers standing around, and we were the ones who jumped out from behind our table, away from interacting with the passers-by, grabbed this little girl and just went, "Oh, where's your mum or dad? How about we take you to the Lost Children's booth?" And on the way there, one of my friends just took a volunteer and says, "Look, do you mind? This is sort of what you're supposed to do." It was kind of not that encouraging.
Oh, no.
Mm.
That's just sad.
Yeah, I know. You sort of I think that's when you sort of have to get on the feedback to some if a convention's like that, But on the whole, my convention experience has been that they're generally well organized. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Although I'm really curious to see what's going to happen over the next 2 years, because it is a good thing that there's a lot of high quality shows across the country now, but I wonder if it's sustainable. I actually hope it is. I would love to see a community where conventions are thriving, like multiple conventions year round are doing well. Almost kind of the same as the craft art show scene. I would love to see that, but remembering just, even 5 years ago where you could say that there'd be like San Diego, like right before New York started, back when there was I know that there was another Reed show, but it was like San Diego, Chicago Comic-Con, WonderCon, like maybe one other show, and other than that, it was all like just the tiny mom and pop, really small shows. And the fact that in 5 years the landscape has changed so much, I guess it's more like I don't know if there's a reason to think that there's a bubble, but I fear it only because anytime something good happens, comic creators are a currently superstitious lot.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I worry about that down here because I've just experienced maybe 3 shows in where I am at Sydney. Yeah, okay, so we've got a small pond of people who turn up to these things. And what I noticed is that the later shows, we don't make that many sales because either they've already bought our stuff or they've spent all their money on all of the celebrities that come out and have seen everything they want to see. And they sort of just kind of turn up to be with their friends and hang out a little bit, and they're not necessarily looking for anything new at the later shows. And yeah, I kind of worry about the same thing. So I always have my eye on what's happening over there. That sort of, it starts there and then there's a trickle-down effect around the rest of the world.
We're the canary in the coal mine.
Oh.
You're a pretty big canary.
So why do you think we have more shows? Why is there more comic book convention happening now than it seems like ever before?
I've got to say that there's a huge popularity of things like the Marvel movies. The whole geek culture thing is really, really popular, and people who wouldn't normally go are now going. I think that's got a lot to do with it. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought that myself. And if you've seen, there was a Marvel and DC movie calendar posted recently, like in the next 6 or 7 years, whatever it is. They got like crazy. Just those 2 companies have a crazy amount of movies coming out. Not to mention, like smaller independent publishers doing their own thing as well. And if that's the fuel to the fire of the comic conventions growing, then they'll probably continue to do that for some time.
Yeah. I just sometimes think that there was always that hype. I really loved that era of build-up, where we were getting the individual superhero movies. You'd get your Thor, then you'd get the Hulk or whatever, Iron Man, and then it was announced that they're all going to star in an Avengers movie, and everyone was like, oh, holy crap, that's awesome, what a great idea. And now it's like there's going to be an Avengers 2 and 3 and all these other spin-off movies. Well, they're not exactly spin-offs, they're just going to be sequels to the previous ones. And that they've got this plan for the next, 6 years or something?
No, it's like up to... Yeah, is it up to 6 years? Yeah, 6 years.
2020?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit mad about my favorite character. No, never mind. Keep on going. Keep on talking. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, but maybe I think we're going to feel that there's going to be a lot of boredom tied into a lot of people just going, oh, not another superhero movie. You know, don't worry about that.
I don't know. I mean, it's like, it's weird. The way that they do the stories now are a little bit different, but then again, you do have this fear that it might turn out to be like, the Westerns back in, the 60s and the 70s where they just killed the genre with so many movies. Or worse yet, your favorite actors just got old and there's no point to see anybody else.
Well,
as long as they make it not mindless like those 90s action movies, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. On the one hand, they have to deliver. If they put out a bad movie, word of mouth happens really fast. So you'll know right away if it's or Hulk movies really didn't do that well. Regardless of what you thought about them. So they really have to deliver and keep the momentum up. I know, like, superhero movies are going to be overshadowed by other things, like specifically Star Wars is going to happen and really, drown everything, probably.
And so, like, we all are aware that, that there's more to comics than superheroes. Sometimes I find that the extra interest has unfortunately been because of the superhero movies. They kind of have this trickle-down effect into conventions where people then discover other genres of comics. I don't know, what do you guys sort of think? I mean, do you think there's going to be some audience that will come in that won't be particularly interested in superheroes, say?
Well, I'm hoping that it's like novels where graphic novels, comics, they have their own genre. There's superheroes and there's these other stories. So just like novels, you can find whatever you might like. So it might shift away from superheroes into some other genre. I mean, me personally, if they would make more samurai comics, I'd be all over that, but they don't. So it all depends on, how the audience moves.
Well, I mean, we've seen the effect with Walking Dead, and, aside from the fact that it's, not a superhero comic, there's also the fact that it's not like people were already, I think, a little bit tired of zombies before Walking Dead. They just did it really, really well, Yeah. And it got worse afterwards, but I think that the difficulty is maintaining the quality of the genre so that, like you said, it just becomes another genre, like the action, film, the romantic comedy, the buddy film, the coming-of-age story, that it could be the superhero story or it could be the superpower story. And you could also see that stories about people with powers could evolve not necessarily into something like heroes, but I was reading a blog by a science fiction writer who I hadn't read any of his novels before, but the blog post just sounded really interesting, Charlie Strauss. And he was talking about how he saw himself moving out of sci-fi into urban fantasy. And his reason for that was because he felt like a lot of the things he was interested in writing about were still coming from the same place, but he felt like urban fantasy was a more useful vehicle to tell those types of stories, and he cited that old concept that any technology that's sufficiently advanced will appear to us as magic.
Ah, yeah.
So I think it's one of those things worth saying, all right, as opposed to moving from hard sci-fi where you really do have to give solid underpinnings for everything, that sci-fi becomes a backdrop for telling the types of stories, exploring the themes you want to, kind of the way that Star Trek did.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. I mean, I myself am sort of torn between in the sci-fi world. I generally default to the hard sci-fi stuff. I mean, I love Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars trilogy, for example, because that got it so spot on. But it's so boring.
Oh my gosh.
It's so boring because there's yeah, okay, great. So we understand how terraforming works and stuff, but it's like, where's the drama? Where's the appeal? And then on the flip side, I used to love the stuff that used to come out of like the 70s that were just so mind-blowing. I mean, what these people were taking and the trips that they were taking us on with them, you know, they just went, you know what? You know what I'm going to say? Screw this. Screw reality. I'm going to go ahead and take on this mind trip.
Well, mystery writing back then was way better. So
yeah.
that's also the reason why.
I mean, Jodorowsky's Dune that never got made, his idea of this cosmic awakening type thing, it was very new agey and stuff, but he had this theme that the hero would die and then his consciousness would spread across the planet and then it would transform the planet and the planet would somehow leave its solar system and go out into the universe like the messiah of planets. And like, there's no hard sci-fi there at all. But the idea is so fantastic that you'd be just completely drawn into something like that, you know?
Well, Dune was definitely more of the metaphysical sci-fi as opposed to hard sci-fi. I only read the first 3 novels, but yeah, that's where the technology just becomes. It feels like it's you not letting the world building get in the way of the storytelling, and I mean that's true whether you're doing. Well, you know, that's actually an interesting idea. Is sci-fi the only genre for which it has such hard, fast rules that it makes it difficult to deal with the trappings? Because I know with obviously we've seen stuff like Twilight succeed with sparkly vampires that walk around the day, vampires and vampires, werewolves, zombies, a lot of major horror creatures. We can have arguments about fast zombie versus slow zombie, but in general, there doesn't seem to be that much debate. It's just sort of like if it's a good story, it's a good story. Sci-fi, I feel like, has a little bit more of a rigid divide only because science into itself is something that's taken very seriously. So.
Oh yeah, I believe you.
I mean, I'm a soft sci-fi guy. I've never gotten too much into hard sci-fi, only because it depends on the book. For instance, like I read Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash a long time ago, and it's one of those things where I realized, wow, this guy is really, really smart. Wow, if I want to understand this book, I'm probably going to have to read it probably another 2 more times and do some research on top of it. And it really comes down to, but here's the thing though, there's a lot of people who are like amateur doctorate students. We don't necessarily want to be, you don't necessarily want to get a PhD in something, but you enjoy going out and researching stuff on your own. And if I had more time, I think I would enjoy that more. But I feel like most of the research that I need to do is probably for stuff that I want to write. I don't necessarily have time to research for books I'm reading for pleasure. And I think I'm on the opposite end of you, where whenever I either see a sci-fi movie or read a sci-fi book, I can't turn my brain off enough to enjoy it because, like, having a full understanding of physics, chemistry, and all these other subjects, it's like, wait a second, that's not how that's supposed to work, and that ruins everything. Your credibility is gone, sir. You messed up. I remember Total Recall was the one that I hated the most. Oh, God.
I can enjoy a movie based on its idea and sort of separate myself out from the science element of that. But when they get something that could have it just took a Google search to just get that little factoid right or something like that, that's where it begins to lose out for me. You know, there are movies that are obviously made to make a buck core.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, that is the worst movie ever. Second
core of the
to
Earth
Total
is-
Recall.
Yeah, you know, and this scientist who's supposed to be a planetary scientist, he picks up this fruit. I think it's like a peach, and he's showing the peach pit, or an apple or something like that. And he's saying it somehow accurately to scale the amount of core to Earth or something like that. And it just lost me. It's like, no, mate, you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, this guy would have a model, you know? He'd have a model on his desk or something. Sunshine I really enjoyed up until a point where apparently we had enough resources on this little tiny speck orbiting this massive, you know, nuclear reaction in the sky to somehow jumpstart its nuclear reaction and save the sun. And we had enough resources on Earth to not build just one spaceship, but two. And that was a little off for me as well. Was I not giving it a fair go? I don't know.
Well, that brings me back to what I was asking. Do you feel that there's any other genres? Forget about comics or or superhero stuff. Just any movie genre or story, any particular genre that has trappings that are as not that sci-fi is super rigid. Like we said, there's a spectrum. But are there other genres that you feel have very strong trappings that if you deviate from them, you better be able to justify it?
Yes. I think it would be, for me, it would be The Fountain, where it was either science fiction / metaphysical. What was going on in that movie to this very day? I have no idea what the purpose of that movie was. I watched it, and then I watched it again, and I was like, you know what? I wasted my life. I was like, what did I just watch? The Fountain?
I don't think I've seen
An
this one.
Aronofsky film, right? The one with Jackman?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman. And I was like, what is this?
I own that mess on DVD. That's what. We're talking about being on different ends of the spectrum.
I was like, what?
You mentioned vampires before, and I actually enjoy where people add something to the mythos or turn something on its head. You know, you've got, like you said, you know, with zombies you had your fast zombies and your slow zombies. With vampires, you've got the ones that are combustible in the sunlight, and then the ones who can actually walk around in the daytime and not be affected. You've got the Bram Stoker ones which don't cast a reflection because they've been damned and make a pact with the devil, and so, I don't know, their soul cannot be seen or something like that. And then you've got the ones that are, you know, irreligious at all, and they just sort of happen to be this kind of, I mean, what are the ones in those terrible movies with that girl in the leather? The ones that go against the werewolves, the Lycan and the...
Underworld?
Underworld, yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing genetic experiments on vampires and sort of like getting, you know, gestalt creatures, but based on their genetics, and that was kind of interesting, even though the movies were terrible. I kind of like when they sort of bend the rules a little bit.
You know,
By the way, not to interrupt the conversation, but Johannes is with us. Hey, man.
Hey, gang, how's it going?
Hello.
Introduce yourself. Say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I'm a
So,
creeper. I'm sorry. I'm just sitting
yeah.
here. I'm drawing. I don't know if you guys can see my screen or not, but I'm just hanging out drawing.
We can see your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. That's a first.
Good boy.
Very nice.
So he's part of the D100's gang. Is this part of your comic?
Yes, sir. This would be my main character, Gertrude.
Cool.
I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible at selling myself outside of like No, I'm serious. Like I say and all the time. So I edit myself immensely. True story.
I keep wanting to say, hey, really nice work, but then what happens is that the screen switches to me and no one can see your work.
Well, thank you.
For my silence.
I like that composition.
What's that?
I like that composition. You know, I've been trying to work on doing more like naturalistic backgrounds and environments. I like what you got going on there.
Yeah, that's kind of actually I've been working pretty diligently at that recently, trying to infuse like Ryston into other elements and getting that full overall effect.
Yeah, it's not
But
always easy.
Yeah, but then I worry about what it's going to look like when I put colors to it. So who knows what kind of mess I'm making?
Well, that's half the fun.
Isn't it though?
Like working on a page, and at a certain point you're just like, I thought I knew where this is going, but now I'm off the reservation, and this just went from being a David Lean film to a David Lynch film. I don't know what's going to happen next.
That's one of the things that scares me the most, especially when you're working in the real world and you've penciled something and it looks really great, and then you start to ink it, and you're going through and you're doing your fine lines and you leave the black for last, and you're really questioning yourself the entire way until you add those last, that black fill, and then you have something. But it's always a gamble before you get to that part. At least I feel that way.
Yeah, but I think it's okay as long as you forgive yourself. I get to the end and like, you know what? I forgive myself. This looks fine. Keep on going.
I always tell myself happy mistakes.
I will redo a page now and again. Not always, but there's times when it's like, oh, can I live with this? Or am I phoning? If I feel like I'm phoning it in, then I will take another stab at it. But it's one of those where I'm like, is it just that I'm not happy that I'm unhappy that I can't draw as well as I'd like? Then that's one where I'm kind of like, all right, I need to accept it and move on. But there are times when I'm like, okay, this can be better, and then I'll usually go back and redo a panel here and there. Yeah.
I know.
I feel you. Unfortunately, I've got I do a lot of the stuff in just on paper and then scan it in, and then my biggest problem is that I get too close to things, and then I spend all this time adding detail, and then you zoom out and you print it or whatever, and it's gone forever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. Like when I first became an inker, I was always really heavy-handed and just over, pages I was inking on, putting way too many lines and just like really overworking the detail on them. And when I do something right, it's about just doing enough. Almost pulling back with the level of detail I put into it. Now that I'm penciling and inking, it's a constant thing I struggle with, but I love detail, but to tell a story and to convey an image, there's balance, and one of the fundamentals of thinking or of art is kind of black, white, and gray. Um, I like my pages heavier with black than anything else, but it's like you clearly have a good balance going on with this image. I love it's like heavy on black on the right side, and then on the left you got a lot of gray going on, and you got a good balance of white in there.
Yeah, no, I feel exactly the same way. That's I've always been pulled more towards that noir spectrum where it looks just as good with color as it does on its own.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely heavy-handed with the blacks, and like you said, learning where to stop, and I forget who it was that said, the most important part of making art is knowing when to not add to it.
That was me.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect. Thank you so much.
The wisdom of the horse's mouth. If anything, my worst habit is under-rendering. I tend to, sometimes I have to force myself to go back and say, all right, I need to put a little bit more into this page, because part of it's just trying to rush and force myself to get the page done, but part of it's just in general, I think I conceive of pages in a more iconic, symbolic manner, not necessarily cartoony, like in terms of rounded, cartoony characters, but just simpler, leaner, like a Paul Grist kind of approach when I first thumbnail it out. And I think my pages are a little bit more detailed than that, but that's me there with the page and just adding more as I go.
Right on. I totally feel that.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to unjam my printer. That's why I'm sort of like off.
That's okay. I'm drawing and totally distracted at the same time. So I'm still getting the hang of talking and drawing again. It's been years since I got to hang out with people and talk and draw.
Well, that's the funny thing. It's studio synergy. We're all doing what we'd be doing in the studio. We're hanging out, we're sketching, we're working on pages or finished art. Me, it's like I was like, oh, let me print out a piece on Bristol so I can do some finished pencils on a sketch I've been had laying around for a while. And now my printer is just like, screw you, I'm not going to cooperate. It's had enough of me.
Well, I'm not drawing at the moment. I'm actually editing text right now.
Now that's multitasking.
So I'm just going through here.
Yeah, it really is.
I'd be talking, but just to myself.
Yeah, I do that. My wife thinks I'm weird.
You shut up. No, you shut up. No, you shut up. I don't see
Yep.
it. Everybody shut up.
Oh my gosh, my fiance does that. It's like just these little tiny whispers. I look around, I'm like, am I in a horror movie or something? Where's that sound coming from?
I talk to my cats, even if they're not in the room.
One of my friends used to have a really great saying: "It doesn't make you a bad person." Wow, that went over like a rock. What's that?
I was trying to figure out what the "it" was referring to.
It.
Huh?
So
anyways, before I so rudely interrupted, you guys were talking about sci-fi.
That's right. I was so gung ho about that.
Yeah, genre stories and which ones have rigid rules beyond sci-fi. Because I think romantic comedies are something where, yeah, you can go and just go completely outside of the box. I don't know if there's really any... the more you push the boundaries of what you do with that particular genre, the better the stories are. I think the best romantic comedies get as far away from the conventions as possible. I don't know if that's... I think that may be true of sci-fi in film, but then there's also the question of I think I never really made a distinction whether we were talking about which medium, but I guess because there are hard sci-fi films as well as hard sci-fi novels. But the only thing I can think of recent. It's been a while, but the most recent hard sci-fi film I can think of is Primer from a few years back. And Primer, again, much like Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, Primer just gave me a headache. It was interesting, but I realized that it's not that I think it wasn't a good movie. It's that I realized this was a movie that was asking more from me than I was willing to give it. Like, have any of you guys seen Primer?
I have.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
It's,
I know what you mean. It's one of those films, like, I think why hard sci-fi might actually be so niche is because, yeah, you kind of feel like you've got to go out and get a PhD and then watch it again just to get it.
mm-hmm.
No, I personally don't like hard sci-fi. Because I am way too critical. I'm the person with the engineering degree, so I sit there and I watch one of those things. I can be too critical at times.
I totally agree with you.
I will mention a movie that I saw recently that I think might be hard sci-fi. It was called Europa Report, and it was basically taking this whole premise about, if there is life on other planets in the solar system, then we should probably get out there to somewhere like Europa. And it was done, and it was as if you were watching one of those NASA missions on YouTube, but then it would cut to the onboard drama as well. And I think it was the first hard sci-fi that I really enjoyed the storyline and the relationships of the characters. They allowed those things to evolve and take the form. The ending was a little bit cheesy and expected, but the whole concept, like everything that led up to that, they got so much right. The budgets, which countries will be involved, the rocket technology that's available and how long it would take to get out there. They thought about all of this, and that doesn't have to all be explained, but it was probably the only one that I've seen recently that actually entertained me.
I will add that to the viewing list.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What, Europa Report?
Europa Report, yeah. It was probably like a direct-to-video or something.
I'll have to see it because the only sci-fi that I can truly say... The only sci-fi that I can truly say that I like, but it had to grow on me. I don't know if it was because of subliminal messaging or what, but it was 2001: Space Odyssey. I think I saw it back when I was maybe 8 years old. I didn't understand it, but I couldn't stop watching for some reason. And I watched it again, like different quarters or periods of my life, and it's like I understood about. And I started discovering more and more and more things in the movie. I was like, you know what? This movie is actually pretty smart, despite it being really old.
Yeah, that one's definitely a classic. And I remember, what's interesting is just that it's hard to sit through because our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. And the movie is just like, we don't give a damn about pacing. We are telling this story at the pace we need. You need to. It's almost you need to sit and experience it. Yeah,
like you sit and then the main character that comes out of the movie isn't even the human; it's actually the robot. Mm-hmm. And how does that happen?
Yep. But was it? I found the pacing was very much like Kubrick's films. I mean, even right up to his later stuff like Eyes Wide Shut.
Mhm.
That pacing, you know, he makes slow movies. He makes movies that you're living for a while. You're not sort of like racing from scene to scene, waiting for what happens next. You're enjoying the scenery. You're being part of the action. You know, trying to figure out the character that's on screen. You know, you're allowed time to scrutinize their expressions and their emotions and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was, and it's really weird that he sort of continued doing that in the face of just cinema changing how it faces everything else.
Yeah.
See, I always find that I enjoy things like that far more. Somebody that either, you know, they invest in things like that and you know, old film equipment, so they have that, like, you know, 70s, really early 80s look to it, so that it's, you know, it's kind of warm and loving, and you get really invested in the characters, and then something terrible happens, or, you know, something wonderful happens, or whatever. It, you know, really sells it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I made an interesting discovery, which is one of those things where once you think about it, you're like, duh, it's kind of obvious. But I was taking a storyboarding class years ago, and just on some of the recommended list of stuff that we'd should watch for the class, one of the things was Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal, and I'd never seen it before, but I happened to find it used on like a Criterion Collection DVD for like $10. So I'm watching it, and you know what? I might have even got it used. A friend might have given it to me. Point is, I was watching it, and the movie, again, kind of like Kubrick, moves at a very, very slow pace. Maybe even slower than, say, a Kubrick, like kind of like a Terrence Malick film. But what I noticed was how beautiful the images on the screen looked. And, you know, growing up in the 80s, that was already when we were at that phase where people's attention spans were getting shorter and shorter. We'd already shifted away from that slow storytelling. Like, I mean, I can remember as a kid, I saw Empire. I had seen Star Wars first, but I didn't remember it because I literally was like an infant when I saw it. But I saw Empire and remembered it before I remembered Star Wars. So then when I went back and saw Star Wars again when they were played on TV as a kid, I remember feeling that it was just kind of slow. I was a little bit bored. But the connection to The Seventh Seal was I'm sitting there and I'm just watching as the camera's slowly panning across this landscape until it slows to the shot that frames the characters and it goes into the narrative. And I was all, oh, that's why they have a director of photography beyond just the director. It's like a light bulb went off of something that was so hugely obvious that I've been missing in film, that like there was a time when just the photography was part of the storytelling. The way that they framed a photo. I mean, yeah, it really felt like you're watching a sequence of moving pictures. And it was that whole thing of like, it's a motion picture. We think about these terms, we say these terms, we don't necessarily think about what they really mean. And it was sort of like me having a moment where I connected to the earlier sense of cinema. And I felt like I developed it gave me a glimpse of the understanding of why the pacing was slower a long time ago. I mean, part of it was the fact that film, you know, was a new medium a long time ago, but even by the 50s, people were getting more inventive, you know, more experimental. But the idea of just watching a beautiful picture move on the screen, being part of the story, it changed the way that I thought about composition, or at least it's in the process of changing it, because I think I meditate on these things, and I think about how I can apply them to my work. But it's still sort of it shouldn't be a new concept to me, but I spent so much time living in a world that doesn't treat film that way, where it's all about the cut and just moving from beat to beat to beat as quickly as possible, and not necessarily even thinking about the visual storytelling beyond just a cool shot, a cool explosion, or a character turning to the camera and giving that cool look. Trailer cuts, trailer shots, the stuff that's going to sell the movie.
Yeah.
It's really thinking about the whole, just watching it unwind before you visually. That's one of the things that I love about manga. I don't read as much manga as I used to, but just the fact that you could watch these things, the storytelling unfold over way more images than we use in Western comics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the reason why I love samurai comics the most. They go all out in the in the storytelling, like visually.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's some really good comics out there. But I think for it all depends on what type of story is being told, the way they use the cinema. Because I know in comedy, if it takes it has to be, for me, I can't stand the comedy that uses that type of visual storytelling. I like it when they know how to do it like a comedian, where they cut it and then they move on to the next thing. I like the Looney Tunes style comedy, Roadrunner style. If they can incorporate something like that into a story, then that is I just wow, you guys are smart. You thought about this, didn't you?
It's crazy that you guys mentioned manga and samurai. There was a fantastic anime, I'm not sure if it was based on a manga, called Samurai 7, which is very loosely based on Seven Samurai. And it does what only Japanese animation can do, and that is give you a feudal Japan with giant robots in it.
I saw that. I was just like a little kid when I was watching it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did it. Because I saw the original movie. And when I saw that movie in black and white, oh my gosh, there's this one scene where he has a samurai in and this is I'm talking about the movie, against this black and white scene where they're in the forest. I'm like, how did you get that shot? Barely, they can even do that barely in color these days. How do you make that look so good in black and white? I'm like, that is just amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That anime actually skirts that line. Where do you have a pure type of story? Is there these tropes and these rules that go with a particular type of cinema or storytelling, and anime and manga are the ones that just completely throw it out the window. They do things where, yeah, sure, why not? Giant robots in feudal Japan. I mean, they're steam powered, so that somehow makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, with steampunk, all bets are off.
Yeah.
I would like them to explain some of those, steampunk, how some of those things work. As far as motion pictures were going, I kind of had an epiphany. But one of the things that I've always really been enamored with is Popeye. The old black and white ones where you would have Popeye would be moving, and the animals around him would be moving, and Bluto would be moving, and Olive Oil would be moving, and the trees would be moving back and forth to the music, and it just the entire thing was in motion. I don't know if anybody connects with that at all, but that was. I'm a black and white guy.
Yeah, they're really cartoon.
I think I
All right,
remember
fine, be
seeing
that way. Don't.
some of them. Yeah, I think I remember watching some of them when I was really, really little. I'm trying to remember when I saw them, but I think it was, how old was I? But I was pretty young. But for a child, when you see multiple things moving back and forth, it's very entertaining. They still use that same type where everything is moving on the screen. If you watch your kids' Saturday morning cartoons and all the singing and dancing and all this other stuff. So it's weird that they would do that for adults back in the day, but that's something that a child would sit and be engaged in. It's just, I don't know.
I
go
think
ahead.
Mainly the thing that got me was the level of work that had to have gone into it because, as I understand it, each one of those things were shot at the same time. Uh, I might be incorrect about that, but when they did those layering, it wasn't all that stuff. You had to move those glass plates around all at the same time.
Yeah, it's for us now. It's a lot of work since we've made it easier for ourselves. But back then, it would be like, oh no, just another day at work. I have to move these glass plates around. That's, that it probably was just hard work, not.
And then we complain about stuff, using the computer. Why doesn't this
I
computer work
know.
fast enough?
I know.
Isn't that the thing that sort of sparked the Tex Avery shorts? I mean, you guys have heard of those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That they were so frustrated with animating cute little bunnies all day that they needed an outlet, and so they did, they stayed back late at night and animated a strip show with Little Red Riding Hood, and the big bad wolf was literally wolf whistling in the audience.
Isn't that where Rugrats came from? The guy that was doing Eon Flux, he got so frustrated with her movements and how fluid they had to be that he wound up creating the Rugrats because they were clumsy and the lines were clumsy.
Is that right? I thought it was Klasky Supo that did a bunch of animations for the Children's Television Workshop back in the day. I'm gonna have to.
I don't know. I could be. I could swear I saw an interview with him on MTV way back in the day. It was sometime after. It was about the time that the Max had come out, and Big Head Todd.
Mm-hmm.
It's just called The Head.
The Head. Yeah.
Oh, Peter Chung.
Actually, it was the opposite. Only because I'm kind of a Peter Chung fan. I'm a little bit of a Peter Chung head.
Okay.
And Peter Chung, the creator of Eon Flux, was an animator on Rugrats. And
it was the other way around.
Yeah, he got tired of drawing cute stuff and said, "I just want to do sex and violence." And he said, "Go for it."
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
I love Aeon Flux because it breaks all the rules in such a fantastic way. It's got but it's more than just the physics of the universe that it breaks. It's the storytelling. Bad guys become good guys, and the heroine dies every episode or something, and she's just so over the top badass. I mean, she can run through an entire hallway of bad guys shooting down from an elevated position at her and take them all out and not get a scratch on her. It was that kind of over-the-top storytelling that was just so. It was refreshing for the time and the genre. I mean, it was on Liquid Television, a Canadian production, and we got it out here late at night. I'd have to get up at 1 in the morning to see it, and I did. And then go to high school.
It was on MTV here. Was it part of the MTV channel?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I think it was.
It was on MTV.
Liquid TV sounds familiar, but.
Liquid Television.
What was the?
Liquid Television was part of MTV, and it was sort of like the way that we have Adult Swim on Cartoon Network.
Right.
Yeah.
It was all of
It was a bunch of experimental cartoon styles and approaches.
Oh, there was some great stuff there. I mean, it was one of those arenas where you could sort of allow people that obviously could never pitch their idea to, say, Disney or Marvel or something, and they could just put together this short little piece of experimental animation and screen it somewhere. I mean, there was some beautiful stuff on there sometimes. A lot of whack stuff, but a lot of beautiful stuff in amongst it.
It's funny because Adult Swim kind of carried on that legacy to some degree. I mean, not so much with the action, definitely the comedy, but they really did put out a lot of animation that you just like. Aqua Teen Hunger Force took me a while to even wrap my head around. But I mean, they've got so many weird, different shows that and some of them do have some good action. Like like Metalocalypse, for as much as it's a comedy show and it's got heavy metal in it, like the fight scenes in that show are pretty awesome.
I never understood that.
I did find this one thing that really annoyed me, and that was when shows like I've got to get back into. I mean, Adult Swim now you can get on YouTube anytime you want, really, as would be all the animations from Liquid Television if you wanted to. But what I discovered is that you'd start with a base of very experimental film, and you'd have your sort of Aeon Flux type storylines that people tended to gravitate towards more than other stuff. And then what would happen would be that their ratings would go up, and suddenly the producers would almost get it in their heads that, hey, you know what? This is what's most successful. Let's do more of that. That one's got tits and violence, so we'll just do more tits and violence. How about that? And then it just becomes this show of stuff that's done just for the sake of trying to keep that audience that they grew.
Well, there's always going to be people that are going to just chase the money.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's going to be the network forcing the creator to do it. Sometimes the creator might just say, if it ain't broke, don't break it. Let's run into the ground. You never know where it's one or the other. But I think it's really tough for anyone to both have a creative vision that's strong enough to keep reinventing themselves and also have enough power in their contract or just have enough power over the production they're working on to push those changes forward and be willing to go into scary territory and be willing to say, okay, this worked. It worked like gangbusters. And now we're going to hang a hard left. I mean, look at Dave Chappelle. Comedy Central basically, railroaded him off of his own show.
Oh, wow. Well, wasn't that the same case with Chris Falusi on Ren and Stimpy?
Yeah.
I heard about that. Where
In fact,
that they kept the show, but they didn't really like him.
I have a DVD set. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's 7 Ren and Stimpy cartoons that were done like long after. I think it was like Ren and Stimpy: The Lost Years or The Lost Footage, or I think it might be Ren and Stimpy: The Lost Episodes. Anyway, they imagine Ren and Stimpy with a little bit more nudity and just a little bit more vulgar and just a little like they were already pushing the boundary for kids entertainment.
Oh
now,
yeah.
Or just imagine Ren and Stimpy, exact same production but being on Showtime.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, we're gonna do adult stuff. We're not making these episodes for kids. And each episode also has like a little 5 or 10 minute commentary with John Kay and maybe one of the storyboard artists that worked on the production or one of the writers, and they just talk about like a lot of these ideas because they're episodes that were rejected by Nickelodeon, and they were told we can't do these episodes. But at some point, years and years later, I guess he got the rights. I don't know if the rights reverted back to him or however it is that he has the legal rights to do this, but he took rejected scripts that were rejected by Nickelodeon and said, we're going to do these now, and we're going to push them even further.
Wow.
Was that part of there was some sort of relaunch with Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy, and then wasn't there something weird like Pamela Anderson had some sort of like weird stripper?
Oh, Stripperella.
Yeah, those were all coupled together, weren't they? I can't remember if Ren and Stimpy was part of that.
Well, Stripperella was from like Stan Lee Media's, I think, first and only foray into animation. Yeah. Like, broadcast animation.
Stan Lee, as in like Marvel Stan Lee, did that?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Stan Lee, people forget he's had like 3 or 4 other companies outside of Marvel. He just like, the man just keeps rolling, and he's just like, I'm gonna go over here and make this. And now people are suing me, and I'm gonna go over here and make this. And the man's a machine. You gotta give it to him. His imagination doesn't stop.
Wow.
Yeah, 91, and he was out here in June, July, and he decided to stay back after hours just to honor the guests that had bought tickets and hadn't seen him yet. 91, man. If he said that he needed to go home for a nap, I'm pretty sure the fans would have understood.
Well, I mean, that's pretty classy. People have come a long way and paid a lot of money to see that. The fact that he's willing to say, all right, I'm going to hang in there. And I mean, I can't imagine being popular enough to have people want to see me that badly. But if I ever were in that position, I would like to hope I could be gracious enough to put other people's needs before mine. I know that I get cranky if I go more than 4 hours without eating or with a bathroom break. But I'd like to hope that I could put other people giving a damn about me before my own needs. So,
I mean, this comes off the back of, we're here at what one of our eloquent prime ministers once described us as the arse end of the world. Right. When we get celebrities out, they're jet lagged. They've just gotten off a 14-hour flight from LA, and I think it was Keith Urban, the guy who played Dredd. He'd obviously just stepped off the plane. He was signing stuff. A friend of mine goes up to him with a Judge Dredd comic book, and for seriously a whole minute, he was just sitting there just going, why has this person handed me a Judge Dredd comic book? He couldn't put two and two together, and this is like, oh, hang on a minute, I was in a Judge Dredd movie. Yeah, okay, fair enough. And like Stan Lee just came over, and he knocked it out of the park. He was there for 3 days straight. I mean, the guy's got stamina.
that's pretty impressive. When he's got more energy than Bones, young Bones, no less. See, Jeff just snuck in there all stealth mode.
Hey Jeremy, how's everybody doing?
Yeah,
Art
right.
Ninja back there.
What'd you say?
Your Art Ninja back there. You just kind of snuck in under the radar.
Oh, sounded like you guys are having a conversation. I didn't want to just jump in, so.
Yeah.
We're all over the map as usual.
Yeah.
I think I'm just about done. I'm just trying to figure out the balance on my piece now. Not sure.
That's really cool, Paul.
Oh, thanks. It's a little Halloween sketch I'm doing for, is it Mark Starsman? I think that's his name. One of the many small pieces I've got to get out of here, get out this week. But a ton of commissions I've got to complete. And I kind of had to sneak this one in under the radar to make sure that it got done in time, because it was a good little opportunity. I couldn't really pass it up.
Yeah.
Question. Paul, when you do a digital commission, do you also send them like a print of the piece, like just printing it out on photo paper, or is it just the high-res file?
I send them the print.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I set a price that can actually include it, so that I don't lose out too much. I'm trying to bump it up, but I've noticed that it kind of hovers around the $25 mark, because I've tried to bump it up to 35 and 40 and even 50, and people just go, oh, okay, thanks, bye, and just walk away. But I did an anime convention, and at about $25 I got 8, 9, 10 commissions out of it, which paid for the table. And the postage, it was all local, so, and some people were doing like 2 or 3 commissions, so there was just one postage to pay on that. It's only like $1.20 or something like that. But Yeah, look, I won't lie. I'm probably losing time on it.
Well, that's your perfectionist heart. You can't help but not want to give it your all. I mean, that's. We'd like to hope that we can all be Sergio Aragones and create something that's masterful and quick.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll sort of show you the standard that I'm used to producing for them. And look, I can probably knock them out in a couple hours. I mean, we're not talking anything too, you know, what? Here we go. Here's a. Actually, this one will make you laugh. No, I think I'm going to go with cool instead of laugh-worthy, actually. This was the George and Padma from Harry Potter.
Ah.
Is that on screen?
Yeah, I can see it. It's nice.
Yeah. And the sketch took me 5 minutes, and then the total of doing all the inking and colouring here, I mean, we're just talking maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours work. I didn't want to just blow it too far out, you know, I put a few sparkles and effects and some leaves. That's just like a Photoshop brush that handles all the color and size and rotation of all those leaves. And so, you know, that just takes it a few seconds to just paint on. But yeah, you know, we're talking maybe an hour or two of work, and yeah, then I just post it out to them. And the thing is that they tell their friends, and sort of generates a little bit more work. And yeah, sort of really trying to get the name out there and the artwork out there more than anything else.
Can I just say that I love the toes in those things? It's great.
Yeah, the little bull toes. Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah, man, that's great detail, dude.
Thanks.
Those lumpy arms. I always love it when, like, you know, the arms are bigger at the bottom than they are at the top.
Yeah, big hands. I know.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's some really great stuff.
Thanks. No, monsters sort of allow you to just really play around with proportion and stuff. And I kind of wanted to play around with the color too, and sort of not make the girl pink. So I decided to make the dad pink instead.
Yeah.
Probably do. Hopefully this will come out, this will be accepted, and yeah, it'll be another little piece that I'm quite proud of. Trying to find the balance now, it's kind of hard, you know. I mean, is it throwing off balance? Am I getting the lines right? It's just something that's not quite working for me yet, but I'll get there.
What do you do, like, when you do... I was just gonna say, what do you do when you do a commission, like a digital commission, and then it's like, I guess, I mean, you print it out and sell it to the guy, but then does that put any kind of limitations on what you do with the art later, or is it just like if I do like a traditional piece, I feel like I can make prints later and stuff like that?
I tell them that it's an agreement between us. They've actually bought it, and so it's theirs. And so to respect that, I don't print off anymore, except for my portfolio. And they sort of generally allow me to put it on my DeviantArt or Facebook to show off. But I have had people say, "Oh, look, it looks like you really enjoyed this one. If you want to print off 100 and sell them, be my guest." But I kind of let them make the call.
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, as much as I'd love to, I mean, I've gotten some really good ones over the years. Over this year, actually. Where's one? There's one that I'm really proud of. I'll just see if I can find it. It's a Doctor Who commission. Let's see if I just search.
You get most of these from like cons, or are you getting them off your site, or like at the comic, or where are you getting them?
These are
Like
from
commissions?
convention. Yeah.
Convention, yeah.
Yeah, they're just
That's kind of
convention.
cool. Yeah, that's kind of cool when you get. I mean, I get convention commissions too, but they're usually like a little sketch at the con. Once in a while, somebody will be like, "Hey, I want you to, paint like a really nice piece," and I'll be like, "Well, I got to do that, at home later." So, but I don't know. That's kind of neat. If you could like line up like 10 or 12 of them just from a con, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think the reason I decided to do like the the commission sort of digitally is because then I could spend the time on them later on.
Yeah.
Okay, we found it. Just let Photoshop do its thing. This was the guy dressed as the Matt Smith Doctor Who, fighting the Dianoga, that one-eyed snake thing in the trash compactor on the Death Star.
Yeah.
And come on, Photoshop. A moment now. There we are. Can you all see that?
Oh.
Came up for a second there.
Yeah, you talk, Paul.
And when I'm talking,
Yeah, you gotta talk.
I'm talking,
Yeah.
you can see it.
That's awesome. I love the fez.
Yeah. That's how you tell it's the 11th Doctor, the fez. They all wear the fez.
That's,
Everyone
yeah,
loves
that's
the
totally
fez.
cool. I actually saw that piece. I remember you must have showed it to me somewhere before. Maybe I saw it on Facebook or something. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, yeah, must have. Yeah, no, this was a couple of conventions ago, probably around early September, because we're in late October now, aren't we?
Yep.
That was
So you did a couple since like October then?